Brothers and sisters, good evening and a very warm welcome to this awesome program on NTV. As always, it's a pleasure to have you join us this evening. We are as disappointed and sad as you are on our World Cup loss. I hope and pray that our team will learn from what happened and will come back with a blast. The other day, I was reading a quote from Jesus Christ, upon whom be peace. He says, "If you bring forth what is within you, you will succeed." And I was reading this quote again and again and again. He didn't say, "If you bring forth what is best in you, you will succeed," because that definitely sounds too cliched. He just says, "Bring forth what is within you." And I think the quote implies that what we have within us, you and I, is enough to take us to success, to great success, to esteemed success. But some of us do bring that forth. But many of us will leave this world without recognizing that potential within, and that is sad. And I hope and pray that our team will one day bring forth what is within them and become champions again. What are we going to discuss today? That's the question. Well, in the last episode, we were discussing the topic, should mothers go out to work? We had with us Mrs. Priya Ramachandran, and we had a very meaningful discussion. We were able to share quite a lot of valuable insights. Thanks a lot for the feedback and thanks for the suggestions. Today, we are continuing this discussion, but we are going to share a few tips which are going to help working mothers balance work and life better. Usually when I introduce my co-host, my panelists in the studio, I introduce them by saying, this is a very special person and our relationship goes a long way. But this time I have to say that this is indeed a very special person and our relationship goes back 17 years because I've got my life partner in the studio. Dr. Sunaina Iqbal will be with us as our co-panelist today. Dr. Sunaina has been a part of this show before. She has helped us extensively with her research and she has also joined us a couple of times on air, and it's now time to welcome her into the studio. Dr. Sunaina, it's a pleasure to have you with us and a very warm welcome to my teacher.
Thank you, Sangeet.
And I'm sure you'll add a lot of value to this program with your experience and domain knowledge.
Hopefully.
Now, for the benefit of our viewers, could you kindly introduce yourself in a little more detail, please?
Sure. I've been working with a couple of NGOs since 2003. I've been lucky enough to interact with 3,000 plus students very closely. My passion in this field led me to pursue a doctorate in educational management, which I just completed last year. Currently, I'm managing an online platform called Destination Success, which engages parents, students and teachers in meaningful conversations. We also have an offline space called SO, where families meet once a month, attending workshops by experts on familial development. That's about it.
That's amazing, Dr. Sunaina. A lot of experience. You've actually worked with a lot of students and parents and teachers too. And of course, your knowledge base has been fortified, has been strengthened by your doctoral research on the subject of how can we actually support CBSE students in the UAE succeed better in academics and life. So thank you once again. Our objective today is to share a few valuable tips that will help working mothers balance work and life better. But before we start discussing these tips, could you just share your initial thoughts on the subject?
Well, Sangeet, I would say it's a tough juggling act, a very, very tough one at that, because we moms want to be everywhere all the time, doing everything possible. We want the benefits of both worlds. Just like how a friend of mine put it, we want those sloppy kisses at the end of the day when we are tucking the child into bed. And at the same time, we also want to enjoy that sense of financial independence that we get while drawing the salary at the end of the month.
Very true, very true.
So I think the point is all about prioritizing in different stages of life.
Okay.
Moms should go out to work, The point is when.
Okay.
By when I mean the age of the child.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So you needn't have a single priority throughout your life. I think
Exactly,
you can have
exactly.
different priorities in different stages of your life.
Very true.
In
very
the
true.
initial stage, if your children, maybe your child assumes more importance.
Exactly.
But at a later stage, when they don't want you, need you 100% there, then maybe your career can assume, take a step forward.
Exactly, exactly. Sunaina, thank you. I think, yes, definitely the question is not whether mothers should go out and work. The question is when should they go out and work? What is the apt time to do that?
True.
But I also want to share something. When we were discussing this topic with our friends and from our experience, when we talk about a working mother, immediately the picture that comes to most people's mind is somebody who is extremely career conscious, somebody who is extremely ambitious, and somebody who wants to make it big. But we have a different picture. We sometimes come across a different picture. Would you want to talk
Yes,
about that?
as you said, a career woman means a super ambitious lady in majority of our minds who
Okay.
has given more priority to her job than her children.
Okay.
But I don't think that's the case always, because we personally know single moms who are trying hard, struggling hard to make both ends meet here.
Exactly.
We know of moms who, if given a chance, would stay at home, taking care of their little ones wholeheartedly. So they are there doing their job just because of financial compulsions in most cases. So in these cases, I would say it's not a choice that they've made, but it is the only option that they have.
Exactly. We've really come across a lot of families where it's a single parent. The mother has to support the family. And also in many cases, if given a choice, the maternal instinct would take over, and the mother would definitely, want to run away from office and be with the little kids. But at the end of the month, bills have to be paid, and this is a place where costs have been spiraling year by year. And in most cases where both parents are working, it's because they need the support of one another. So I think the standard cliched image of a super ambitious mother giving more priority to her career is not true.
True, absolutely.
Yeah, in most cases. Thank you, Sunaina. I want to introduce at this juncture, before we get on to the tips, another interesting angle, and it's a very important angle. When it comes to success, I'm sure you would agree, I'm sure all experts on the subject would agree, that attitude is more important than knowledge and skills and experience and the qualifications that a person has.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So having the right attitude towards oneself and towards the world is very important for success. We may use the word attitude, or we may use another technical word, which is life position. Now, what I want to tell now, dear parents, please do listen carefully, please be with us. To have a healthy attitude, your child mandatorily requires the presence of a loving adult at home, especially during their formative years, especially during the early years. And I didn't say parent, I didn't say father or mother, I said a loving, caring adult at home. Let me explain why. Now, when a child is born and he's going through his initial days, the default attitude that he keeps is called, I'm not okay. He feels pretty inferior, and he feels he's smaller and he's much inferior than the rest of the world. I'm sure it's easy to understand why the child takes that position, because he's small and the rest of the world is big. He is weak and the rest of the world can do anything possible. And this child has to depend on the people around him, even for his most basic needs. Just imagine you're living in a world of giants and you have to depend on them. It's natural that the child would develop an attitude that says, I'm not okay. Now, the only time the child feels that he's okay, or the only time he develops an attitude that he is okay, is when someone responds to his needs. When a mother or a loving adult comes and responds to his cries, feeds him, holds him, fondles him, nurtures him, talks to him, sings to him, puts him to sleep. Now, if the needs of the child are not met, if there's no one around him to do all these, then the child tends to internalize the feeling that I'm not okay. And that gets hard-coded into the system. And when these children grow up, they grow up without having any sense of self-esteem. They find it extremely tough to ask for the rights. They find it extremely tough to say no to others, and they've got this uncanny, unreasonable respect for authority. Just imagine you go to a restaurant and they serve you cold food. These children might find it very tough to ask for a replacement, because they feel there's something wrong with me and I can only feel good if I please the other person. Now that's not a healthy attitude to have. In fact, things can get worse. When the child crosses year 1 and he starts walking, naturally when a child starts walking, he'll stumble and fall, and he would bruise himself, and that's the first time that he would seriously get hurt. At that time, when he bawls his heart out loud, he wants somebody to immediately come and attend to him. Now, if no one comes, if no one is around, then the child begins to develop a very dangerous attitude, and that's called, I'm not okay, you are not okay. Because he tends to think, well, I'm not okay, but the world also has a problem because the world is not attending to me. And these kind of children, mind you parents, it's extremely dangerous, tend to become extremely apathetic. They will not be sensitive to the needs of others. They will not have any problem hurting others. They will have no problem bullying others, and sometimes they even tend to become criminals. So the point is, the formative years, the first few years, it's extremely important to have a loving adult at home if you need your child to develop a healthy attitude. And as we said, if you don't have the right attitude, even with the right qualifications and experience and whatnot, it's tough to succeed in life. I'm sure you agree with me, Doctor, on this. Yeah. Well, it's now time to start sharing our tips on the topic. So I believe let's start with you. So what tips do you have for us?
Well, Sangeet, before we start, I would like to say that these are not our tips alone.
Okay.
We had put this topic up for discussion in a group that consists of moms who are doing a wonderful juggling act between homes and their jobs, husbands whose wives are working, caretakers of kids with special needs, psychotherapists, teachers. So I would like to thank all of them for all their valuable inputs before we start off. Well, tips, I would say, Sangeet, just as you mentioned the life position and transactional analysis, 0 to 7 years, research says 0 to 7 years is the phase where the child undergoes maximum metamorphosis, both physiologically and psychologically. He is phasing his developmental phase there, and if you are there with him to hold his hands and tell him, come on, let's phase it together, then there's nothing like it. So that is 0 to 7 years, but I would say at least 0 to 4 years till the child goes to school. If 0 to 7 is not possible, then at least 0 to 4 you should be with the child, so that you set the foundation straight. Because 7 to 14 years, if the first stage is taken care of, I think 7 to 14 years, your role becomes that of a guide. You just have to, you don't have to be there 100% all the time physically. You can do that with remote parenting, calls in frequent intervals or mails or messages, you can manage it. And then from 14 years onwards, they are tuned to do what they're required to do without much push and ado from our side. So it's all about that initial stage of 0 to 7 years. If you can be with the child, nothing like it. Now, I'm sure one question that definitely would come up in the mind of those who have been working and have taken a break is, oh my, 0 to 7 years, that means 7 to 8 years. How do I manage that gap in my resume or CV? That's a huge gap. We need to admit that. You can take up jobs with flexible work timings. You can take up voluntary work, freelancing work, part-time jobs. I'm sure, yes, it would in the financial package that you get from a 9 to 5 job wouldn't be received in such kinds of jobs. But again, you get the other two advantages. You can be with the child, and you can fill up that gap in your resume. And then again, I think you can also brush up your skills by taking certificate. There are teen certifications online. You can brush up your skills, and you can add that, strengthen your CV that way.
True. Thank you. A couple of points that, if I may add, because we had this interesting discussion last week as well. So since we kept on harping about the loving adult at home. A lot of people came back and said, I think the best choice would be to have a grandparent, or to have both grandparents at home. But I was not very comfortable with the idea, because our parents took care of us, brought us up as able-bodied and strong-willed men and women. And I think now is the time for us to give it back to them, where we take care of them, and instead we are suggesting that bring them over here, let them take care of our kids.
A second round.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that would be a slightly selfish thing to do, according to me. But I think if you look at it from the context of a big, loving, caring family, you know, where the grandparents are here and you care for them, and they spend their free time taking care of the kids, where it's a give and take kind of interdependability, I think that should be fine. But I think the point Dr. Sinha said is, from 0 to 7, I think it's extremely important to have somebody at home most of the time. If not you, someone else, could be another loving adult. And regarding other options, you said people can take a freelance job. Last time we had a close friend calling the studio, Mr. Rajiv, who also takes classes for my teacher. He said if mothers can choose to be teachers, okay, and now that's a win-win situation, because you could get into the bus in the morning with the child, you could go visit the child every now and then, you know, and you could physically have the child around as well. So that's another option. And dear parents, if you feel that you're going to be left out if you stay back for a couple of years, let me tell you, there are umpteen number of free online courses that are available. Can you believe this? Even Harvard University is offering free online courses. And if you can go online and finish them, you can even get a certificate from Harvard. So just because you're staying back, that doesn't mean you have to be left out or that life will bypass you.
True.
You have umpteen options to catch up. And I think Dr. Sunaina also talked about remote parenting, and I was quite interested when you said that, because remote parenting is another extremely important concept. Now, we're talking about moms going out to work, but if you look at the GCC, you'll find that there are a lot of families back home where the father is working here, and the father is the main breadwinner. Now, of course, you need mothers to take care of their children, but the presence of the father is also extremely important.
Absolutely.
So, remote parenting is a concept that has been designed to help parents, especially fathers staying away from homes. How can they stay in touch with the child? How can they stay in touch with the child's teachers, with other stakeholders, and to have a meaningful engagement with what's happening? So, but that's another topic for another day. We'll definitely bring that in. Yeah. So, thank you, Doctor. That was about the time frames which are quite crucial for the parent or a loving adult to be at home. What else do you have for us?
Well, I would say as long as the mom is out of home when she's at work, she should make sure that she stays connected. Most of the moms do it, yes. Make frequent phone calls. Make sure that you call up when the child comes back from home, from school.
That's very sweet.
Yes, and speak to him for a couple of minutes about how the day school went, in case there are umpteen events and activities happening in schools. So in case you cannot make it to a particular event, you can hand over a good luck charm to the child, or you can give a specially handwritten message wishing her all the very best. That goes a long way. And you can also coordinate with a parent who would be attending the function to record your child's performance with WhatsApp and Facebook messengers. I don't think it's a huge issue sending a video across. So make sure that you sit down with the child, if possible the same day, and watch her performance through that video. Again, moms with younger kids, if you can record songs, stories and rhymes in your voice, which the nanny can play for the child when he's dozing off to sleep or when he's agitated, let me tell you, that works as a huge emotional connect between the mom and the child.
Oh my God, I'm sure you got these tips from working mothers, because they're very practical tips. Dear viewers, sometimes we think you can only make a difference by doing big, grandiose, great things, but
little things.
Exactly. What we are hearing from these mothers who are part of your research is that even these small things can make a very, very significant difference. I'm just thinking, the child could be at the daycare, and he's dozing off to sleep, and if the nanny can come and say, hey, this is your mom singing something for you, what does it cost? It's just a few minutes. Sometimes we tend to look at these things and say, come on, this is silly. And we discussed this in the last episode. The mother could be away, and when she comes back, she tends to play the role of the police officer or the teacher.
Yeah.
But these are these small things where you could be the nourisher, you could be the supporter, you could be an extended hand, a nurturer. That could make a big difference. I remember one of the people who participated in our research said, what she does is she puts a small note in the tiffin box as a surprise. So when the child could be sad because he was away from home, and he opens the tiffin box and finds a note, and I think it makes it very special. I have a tip to share with you as well. I think what we should do as parents is we should come and talk about our office regularly.
Yes.
You should talk about your bosses, you should talk about your colleagues, you should talk about your challenges that you're facing, you should talk about the projects that you're doing. Our children have to understand that it is not a cakewalk for us, because we are making this sacrifice for them too. And I think it's very important that we share our concerns, not to the extent of psyching them out and where they really panic, but to tell them that it's not easy, it's tough, but we're managing it, and it's all out of love. A dining table could be the best place where they can sit and talk. There's another advantage of doing that, because if you really share on a day-to-day basis what's happening in your life, then kids tend to share what's happening in their lives as well. And one day you might catch something that they're doing which might not be quite good for them. So then you get a God-given opportunity to coax them out of it, to listen well and to coax them out of it. So yes, you could be physically away, but you have to find ways to meaningfully stay in touch.
You should be a part of their world, and they should be a part of your world as well.
Exactly. Sunana, they say true balance does not happen. It's not possible. But if you can do all these, you can tend to blend your life outside with their life as well. Yeah, that's a beautiful concept. Thank you for that. What else do you have for us?
Well, we all know we keep telling each other, reminding each other that we have to restrict social media, the time that we allot for social media, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and Facebook. We need to set a definite time, and we need to strictly adhere to that, especially when your child is with you. You need to be there 100%, mind, body and soul. You have to be there. You can restrict these activities to when the child is sleeping, or when you're doing your regular course, when you're cooking or working out. One of my friends who is a career woman, she suggested that we set minimum mandatory limits. Which means, say, minimum 30 minutes I'll spend with the child with his homework. Minimum 30 minutes I'll spend with him on the dining table. Minimum 30 minutes before I tuck him into bed. And we strictly adhere to it. And then in case of perfectionists, we set maximum possible limits. Maximum time that I'll spend on cooking, 1.5 hours. Maximum 30 minutes for washing or cleaning. Which means you don't burn yourself out. Perfectionists have a tendency to burn themselves out doing each task to perfection, and in the process I think that it is eating into the time that you have to spend with your child. So all these limits should be strictly adhered to.
Wow, and I think that can be easily enforced as well.
Absolutely.
It's just about fixing the time and then making it a priority and making sure that you stick to it. I want to talk something about the gadgets. There's a very interesting research that says you don't even have to get into WhatsApp. You don't even have to get into Facebook. But just by having a smartphone in the room, your mind tends to wander, and your attention gets directed to that. They did an interesting experiment where they had couples talking to one another, and they kept a smartphone in 50% of the cases. In the other cases, they didn't have a smartphone. Just having a smartphone led the couples to be less engaged with each other, because there's a light blinking there, and they're thinking about what should I reply to that earlier message. So dear parents, let's make sure that once the kids are back home, let's log off from these devices. Let's take a hike. Let's take a vacation from the internet and from Wi-Fi, because that's the only way by which we can be fully engaged with our children. And since you talked about gadgets, a lot of working mothers tend to treat a gadget as a mother, because when I'm busy, they give when the mother is busy or the father is busy, they give the gadget to the child.
Yeah.
And we have come across a lot of cases where children have developed ADHD. You know, if you see some children, small ones, if you start talking to them, you'll find that they can't stay still, you know, or even their eyes, they can't focus on a particular spot because they've been looking at these gadgets all the time. So if you take them to the restaurant, they can't wait for the food to arrive. If you take them to the bus stop, they can't wait for the bus to come, because in a gadget everything happens instantaneously. So I think we should also not delegate the job of parenting to a gadget. I had a nice tip from a colleague who said what she does is every Saturday she sits together with the whole family and creates a family calendar for the next week.
That's nice.
Okay, so she says, okay, Sunday evening, what are we going to do? Monday evening. So the child says, go to the park. So the father says, no, I want to go to this restaurant. Or the daughter says, I want to go to my friend's place. So what happens is they decide in advance what they would do together as a family in the upcoming week. They schedule it and they put it up on the wall. So everybody knows that this is the time that we have to do.
They would look forward to doing each of these.
Exactly. Once again, simple tools that can make a profound difference. Yeah, thank you. So I think it's about setting time, prioritizing the needs of your young ones, and if at all you want to use social media, do it when the kids are asleep. Yeah, okay. What else, Doctor?
Well, Sangeet, just because we mentioned about perfectionists burning themselves out, I would like to mention about the concept of me time. See, they say that only if there's a canvas, you can draw a picture. Only if there's a healthy, happy you, mind and body, would you be able to do all the other roles to the hill, to perfection. So I think moms, this is one aspect that I think 99% of the moms totally disregard, because they don't spend time for themselves in this hurry-burry. They have to pamper themselves, they have to pay attention to their mind and body, so that you are there healthy and happy to take care of all the other roles effectively.
Exactly. That's a very fearful thought. What happens if the mother falls ill? I think the whole family crumbles down, because she's the kind of glue that holds everyone together. So mothers are not allowed to fall ill.
I know.
Brothers and sisters, it's time for us to take a short break. We will definitely continue our interesting discussion. We'll have many more valuable tips to help mothers balance work and life better. But now it's time to take a short break. Don't go away. Meet you at the other end of the break.